While crossing the Rosebud Indian Reservation with Chuck Weimer this year, we stayed a night in a little campground or a park that they had. It's a beautiful place out in the middle of nowhere. And in the morning, we were just hanging around drinking coffee, talking, when an old man came up and started up conversation. And his energy was so upbeat and so happy. He was one of those kind of guys that it was just fun to sit and listen to him. And he told us stories of his youth, maybe old man stories, but they captured us for a long time. He had traveled around the world kind of in hippie style. He'd been through Russia, he'd been through the Middle East, all these far out places, man. And he'd gone like with little to no money and just like jumped ships, took ships. He'd ridden some freight trains. He'd had this traveling bug all his life. And he just had some outrageous stories.
Sometimes as I've been busy telling my own stories to people, I've been astonished to find out that they thought I was making this stuff up. Because in truth, I'm simply telling them actually what happened. None of my stuff is embellished. And it could be possible to believe that of this old guy too, but as we sat and listened, I realized that he was simply telling the stories of his youth, same as us. He was just a very interesting guy who'd done a lot of things and had a very strong habit of thinking out of the box.
But he was at on the Indian reservation to go to the Sundance, the Lakota Sundance, which you have to be invited to one of those to go. And he'd been before, and he was talking about going to see this Indian chief, I think Crow Dog is what he called him, and the guy was expecting him. But what was interesting about this old guy so much was not as much what was in his youth, but what he was doing with himself these days. What impressed me about him, what I found interesting, is rather than doing the normal thing, which he had tried for a while, but he suffered from a lot of depression doing that, he had gone on to live this very unusual lifestyle, especially for a man his age, and it was working for him really well. And that's what I found interesting. He's been homeless for 10 years now, and he's homeless by choice. He's actually got a house somewhere. And what impressed me was having the courage or the guts, or maybe just the desperation, to follow the call of the beat of a different drummer. I'm not knocking the normal way of life at all. Many of my friends are very happy with normal everyday lives, but there are those who are not. And it's like trying to get your foot in to fit into a shoe that doesn't fit you. Sometimes it's better just to get another shoe. And so I find it, I'm impressed with people who have had the courage to follow a different route, and then when you see it working for them, that's what I found interesting about this old guy. Now at his age, he doesn't think real clearly, and he's a little bit scattered. But what I'm going to do right now is show you a little video of our conversation with him, keeping in mind that what I was impressed with him was his ability to march to the tune of his own drummer. That's what I found, to follow his own heart and his own call. That's what I found. That's what made a big impression on me personally.
Nine, a nuage is in French, right? Is cloud. So
right.
Cloud nine.
So let me get this straight, Nuaz. You've been on the road and homeless for 10 years?
In California, yeah, almost 10 years now. I couldn't live.
And you're 79 years old?
Yeah.
And you're out here going to the Sundance?
Right.
Yeah, you wandered by our camp.
Right.
Yeah, but you telling me you don't drink?
No, hell no.
Or do no dope?
Right.
And you suffered from depression? Tell me that again, man. Before this.
Well, I've had several bouts of depression. When I quit drinking alcohol, it was attempted suicide, right?
Right.
Over, like a long period of time. Anyway, that sort of shamed me into quitting, and there's some other things I won't say, but I think I had sort of a religious experience.
Yeah, but you was telling me that you're healthy being on the road and being homeless.
Oh, yes.
More healthy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, the reason is I don't live in a house. I've got a house and a cabin. But I sit, and I can't live in a house anymore. I know a lot of guys that come out of prison. They don't want to stay in a motel or a hotel, right? They've had 4 walls enough, so they like to camp out. right? And same way with the PTSD soldiers that come out of Iraq and Afghanistan, right?
So you think you're healthier now that you're homeless?
Oh, damn right. Well, hell, shit, and everybody says so.
That's funny, but you don't want to. You're healthier than before when you lived in a house.
Oh yeah, yeah. But it's the way I meet and talk to people much more, right? Where I have a tendency to stay in a house and you become more reclusive, right? And you're watching television, and pretty soon I get depressed now if I go stay in somebody's house for a week or.
Really?
I
I have the same thing a lot because I'm homeless too.
Well, I don't even use.
I live better out here.
Everybody's got a tent. I just camp out, right? At Crow Dog's place here, if you come by yourself, they have what they call an orphans camp. Right? All the people that come alone, you stay, and then I don't have a tent, so I'm close to the bridge. So when it rains, I just take all my shit
under the bridge.
Under the bridge, right?
You going out to the Sundance out here? Yeah. Huh.
Anyway, I'll tell you, you're gonna care out of this. I tell the cops, I always stay on the good side of people. I don't drink, I don't smoke, alcohol, drugs, no. And I haven't had sex for so long, I forgot who ties up who.
I've seen that. There's the druggies, the mentally ill people. I've camped with them.
Oh yeah,
they're the most screwed up.
Tweakers, man, you're really in trouble when you get around them.
Yep, and then there's the drunks and the alcoholics.
Oh, yeah, they always bring the heat. I never want to camp around homeless because there's so many problems and shit.
Right, but then there's the guys like us I've known who are none of that stuff. We're doing this because we want to.
Right, but it's really easy and
I find it easy too. I just had a girl ask me, she said, don't you ever want to settle down? I'm like, once in a while I kind of try it, but it's too hard and I get bored. That's what happens.